One female tick in the grass can leave behind thousands more. But the strangest part is this. The animal most people blame is not the primary host for the early, dangerous stages that reach humans. Most homeowners fight ticks where fear points first, mowing the lawn, spraying the yard, watching for deer beyond the fence. Yet the life cycle hides lower, in the same shaded paths where a much smaller animal moves. And that animal has one habit that changes everything. So, the real question is not how far a person can run from ticks, but why everyone was taught to fight the yard when the real weakness was something else entirely. In the mid-1970s, in Lyme, Connecticut, families began noticing an illness that did not fit the usual explanation. Children developing swollen joints and arthritis-like symptoms in a cluster tight enough that doctors had to look beyond coincidence. A tiny backyard parasite, almost invisible in its early stages, had entered a medical investigation. The town gave Lyme disease its name, but the cause still needed a face. In 1981, researcher Willy Bergdorfer identified the spiral-shaped bacterium responsible for the illness. It was later named Borrelia burgdorferi after him. 2 years later, in 1983, the Connecticut Agricultural Experiment Station, founded in 1875 as the first state agricultural experiment station in the United States, isolated the Lyme disease agent from Connecticut wildlife. For years afterward, the response followed the obvious suspect. Deer were large, visible, and easy to blame, so deer fences and deer-focused sprays became the standard advice. It took entomologists years to notice a detail that changed everything. Deer are large enough to carry the fully grown tick, the stage most people already know to check for. But the far larger population, the larvae and nymphs that do most of the actual biting, need a much smaller animal to survive their first year of life. And that animal was feeding somewhere else entirely, on a host nobody was watching. By the late 1980s, field researchers on Nantucket and Long Island tested a different theory. If mice were the real nursery for these early tick stages, the mice themselves might be the way in. Researchers set out small tubes of cotton treated with permethrin in places rodents were known to forage. Mice, gathering nesting material the way they always do, carried the treated cotton straight back into their own burrows. The chemical transferred onto their fur, and the ticks feeding there died before they ever reached maturity, before they could ever reach a person. That was the forgotten turn. The control point was never the tick on the pant leg. It was the nest, weeks before the bite. Ticks do not drop from trees. They climb from grass and leaf litter, then wait at the height where a passing animal is likely to brush past. The attack begins near the ground, not above it. A single female black-legged tick lays one large egg mass, often 2,000 to 6,000 eggs, before dying. The tick on a sock may be only the visible edge of a larger breeding cycle nearby. Not every tick carries a pathogen. Risk depends on species, life stage, and an earlier blood meal. But in parts of the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic, roughly 45 to 50% of adult black-legged ticks carry the Lyme bacterium. The Lone Star tick brings a different fear, alpha-gal syndrome, a delayed allergy to red meat and other mammal products triggered by a single bite, sometimes lasting for life. The CDC estimates as many as 450,000 Americans may be affected in total, with real uncertainty around the exact count. The tick tube method born on Nantucket is now peer-reviewed and EPA registered, though it is not magic. What happens on the mouse is well documented. Field studies consistently show that treated cotton kills ticks before they mature. What varies is how much that translates into fewer ticks across an entire yard, which depends on the property, the season, and what's happening next door. It targets a documented host and a documented life cycle, using a behavior mice already repeat on their own. So, why has almost nobody heard of it? Not for a scientific reason. The very knowledge that could break the tick cycle sits behind a market built to sell something else entirely. The common response is understandable. Once a tick appears, people cut the lawn shorter, call a spray service, or reach for a cedar-scented natural product that feels safer than synthetic chemicals. A survey of licensed pest control companies in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and New York found that roughly 80% offered standalone tick control programs. Their dominant tools were synthetic acaricides such as bifenthrin, cyfluthrin, and deltamethrin, applied on recurring schedules. That finding does not prove a hidden plot. It reveals a structure. and a structure like this has more than one weak point built into it. First, repeat treatments fit a repeat visit business. A spray needs reapplying, a service needs renewing, a customer needs to call back. Second, a season's worth of tick tubes and a one-time gravel edge do neither. Gravel does not wear out on a monthly schedule. A stone wall cleaned once does not create a service contract. There is nothing about mouse nesting behavior that anyone can bill for twice. The natural aisle has its own problem. Cedar oil is widely marketed as a natural tick product, and the trust around cedar has real roots. The cedar chests and closets long used to protect textiles from moths. Yet a 2021 peer-reviewed entomology review stated that cedar oil's efficacy against ticks specifically was scientifically undocumented, despite being the most commonly used natural product in the industry. That is the twist. The familiar option has weaker tick-specific proof than the odd little tube built around mouse nesting behavior. The larger failure is that visible solutions crowd out biological ones. The open lawn draws the eye, deer get blamed for their size, and a spray feels decisive because something has been applied. Meanwhile, the immature tick feeds in a mouse nest, beside a wall, under leaves, away from the clean center of the yard. So, what should a homeowner actually do with this knowledge? Start at the roots mice use, not the open center of the yard. Place tick tubes near wood piles, stone walls, hedges, and the brushy borders where lawn meets woods, the paths mice actually travel, hide, and nest in. Refresh them about once a month during the season, following the label directions. If making a home version, use only properly treated cotton, and keep it away from children, pets, food areas, and bare handling. This is the step people rush, and it is the one that matters most. Pair this with a dry edge, a 3-foot wood chip, or gravel strip where lawn meets woods, and with permethrin-treated clothing instead of skin-applied repellent, which lasts far longer against ticks. Check yourself, your kids, and your pets after time outdoors, and keep yard clothes out of the bedroom until washed. None of it depends on being noticed. The next tick a person finds is usually not the one that fell from a branch. It's the one that climbed from a path something else walked first, low along the ground, exactly where nobody thought to look, past the mower, past the sprayer, past every visible line of defense. Most yards still treat the open lawn as the front line and the tree line as the border. The real line runs somewhere in between. Through the same quiet stretch of ground, a small animal crosses every day without anyone noticing, carrying more than it looks like it could. That's the quiet failure in most yards. Not a lack of effort, but effort spent on the wrong few feet of ground, year after year, while the actual crossing point stays exactly where it's always been, waiting for someone to finally give it a reason not to.